Mr. Derek Veenhoff.
He's better known as
Deke.
Drinking liquor with DJ Deke, we out laughing.
Yo, Deke.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Deekast. This is episode 87. We're here with Nicholas Picholas. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Derek.
Yes, and Nicholas Picholas, you may remember him from Video and Arcade Top 10, of course. And but before we get into the history and all that, why don't you remind folks, tell us what you're up to these days?
Oh, good. What am I doing these days? I host a radio show in Buffalo, New York, radio station KISS 98.5. I do the morning show, which I have done, I think almost my entire run on Video and Arcade Top 10. I had been doing a morning show in Buffalo, or at least involved with the station at some point. So the TV show predates the radio show, but then the radio show has lasted a lot longer. And I've worked at a few other stations. Radio has kind of always been my thing. And like you, DJing, nightclubs, stuff like that has always been my thing. So I still do that. I dabble in what's called sports music now. Basically, I play games at sporting events. Like if you go to a Bills game, there's a guy playing music during the game. That's me. If you were to go to a Sabres game in the last however many years, and I just stopped doing that. But, that music that plays between puck drops and stuff, that would be me. And it's turned into a thing. So cool stuff, it's a form of DJing, but it's very, very specific. So those are the things that I do now.
So you said the show predates the radio show, but what is your origin story? Did you always have these talents, or did you have to get an education first, or how did you develop your skills, so to speak?
It's a very peculiar skill set. I don't know how I developed it. I just always kind of did stuff with music. I always, my mom always said I would sit in front of the turntable at home and play music. And then I would also mess around. My dad had like a cassette deck, and I would rebuild songs, like edit them with pause and play and record and stuff like that, because I'd liked certain part of the song. So I'm like, well, I want that. I was doing editing as a young kid, like as a very young kid, doing that kind of stuff without having the editing tools. We're talking no computers, none of that, just a pause and play button. So stupid stuff like that. That turned into, I would DJ in high school, DJ dances and stuff like that. That turned into DJing nightclubs at a really young age, and then got into radio fairly young. I was working nightclubs very young, before I was old enough to drink. When I was 16, I was DJing nightclubs, and then got into working at a radio station. And my first radio station was up in Brampton, CFNY, which was at the time 102.1. It's the Edge 102 now in Toronto. Mm-hmm. But before they were downtown Toronto, they had a little studio up in Brampton, and it was a really special place with kind of, very uniquely talented people. Like just a really interesting time to get into radio, and just kind of got in and turned that into what is now a radio career. And that station, someone at that station actually looped me in to auditioning for Video and Arcade Top 10. So that all sort of transitioned all at the same time. So they say they all have something to do with one another. I did go to Ryerson. I did attend RTA. And Lola, are you printing something out? Lola, come here. Come here. Say, this is Derek.
Hi.
Yeah. So, all right, scram, kid. While I'm talking to you, there's a printer to my side. My daughter's like printing stuff out. It's very funny. Anyhow, sorry to distract. But that's kind of the story. There's a lot that goes along with all of these different influences. But between getting into college, which I didn't complete, I actually got a gig about 2 semesters in. I ended up getting a job editing video at a really nice studio. And I don't know, Derek, if you've ever been to like a proper studio, it defines it for me. If there's like leather couches, like black leather couches and dim lighting, I'm like, oh, this is a studio. This is like what you see. This is what it's supposed to be. And it was one of those studios. So I was drawn in. I'm like, I don't need college, man. I'm going to go get paid, $10 an hour or something to edit video. And I did. And here we are.
Wow. So the show itself was 91 to 2005 or 6?
2006.
2006. So and you said you auditioned, but there's a story there where you had replaced a host that had left or something like that, right? The initial host.
I was not the initial lead host. I was literally like the however you want to rank hosts. I was at the bottom, I was like I think there were 4 people on the show at the time. It was Gord and Liza, another person I don't remember, and then me. And I had replaced someone that 4th role had shifted and kind of they'd gone through a lot of people. And I'll never forget, I showed up at the last taping date of the first season. And I say last taping date because they would do, I think, 4 episodes in a taping date. So the last, what were we, maybe 50 shows in or something like that. I came in and I remember Liza Fromer was a little like standoffish, like no one's talking to me. No one's particularly friendly. And I'm like, did I piss you guys off or something? And she goes, no, just we've gone through a new person every time. So we're not going to bother to get to know you because they will probably replace you. Ironically, a couple seasons in, maybe 2 or 3 seasons in, and I don't remember the timeline, but Gord, who was the original lead host, the first guy talking, whatever, he had another commitment or got another gig or couldn't make that taping date. And the producer of the show just said, get Nick to do it. And, I'm like, get me to do what? And he's like, you do the lead part. And I did, and it just kind of clicked. And I literally jumped in, both feet, just started doing it. And I don't know, it worked out. So I did that right up until the end of the show. So I would say I did about 730 episodes of Video and Arcade Top 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I read it was one of the longest running Canadian, I don't know if it's daytime or something.
Yeah, I do know the stat because my friend actually looked it up. It is the longest running Canadian kids game show.
Right.
If that's a record, we've got it.
Right, and you said a lot of the other hosts would turn over pretty quickly, but you lasted the whole time. I mean, did you ever get bored? Did you ever change your opinions of it, or did you just kind of get better and better at it over the years?
I didn't have an opinion other than it was fun and it was something to do. And they gave you a check when you showed up, which was to me kind of a magical thing. So young guy living in Toronto, literally trying to pay the bills. That mattered, and it makes me chuckle. I didn't think about it as much as I should have at the time, probably. It was just something to do. And I made sure I was in the studio always, like show up, do your thing, do the best you can, and go with it.
Yeah. So you've talked before about, obviously in the States, it's a lot of competition for celebrity and that, but in Canada, a lot of my friends or peers, everybody knows who you are, like whether it's from Edmonton, Calgary, like Vancouver, Toronto, like people know your name and they remember the show, especially people who are, millennials. So what has that been like over the years? People still recognize you in that?
Oh, Derek. Yes. And to answer your question, people do recognize me, but I got to tell you, like the most random, weirdest places where you will get a stare from someone and so I don't, especially in the last year, I don't go to Canada a lot, but I do travel so without any border COVID stuff, I probably go once every couple of weeks. I've got family right across the border and do some shopping and stuff. So I'm literally on the border. So crossing is not a problem. And my wife always gets a kick out of, she's like, that guy's staring at you. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, no, it's weird. And so I'll get like a guy staring at me. I'm like, is he 30? And she goes, yeah, he's maybe 32. And I'm like, Video and Arcade Top 10. I'm like, I guarantee you that guy's like, knows me from somewhere. Sometimes they can place you. And then sometimes they just know that like you are a familiar face. But the weirdest one was I was up in Bancroft of all places. My sister's got a place up there. So we're up in Bancroft. I'm with my siblings. We don't get together that much, but we're all together. And we're standing in line at whatever checkout, supermarket. And the guy behind me starts like freaking out. And my sister's like, that guy's having a seizure or something. And I look at him and he goes, you're Nicholas Picholas. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And he was a curiously odd fellow, but a huge fan. And he could not believe that I turned up in his little, neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Up in Bancroft, Ontario. Nicest guy in the world. Huge fan of the show. Had written multiple letters, and was just like, it was as weird for me as it was for him. So yes, you do get recognized. I get recognized, and it's always an experience, and I appreciate it. Like, I'll tell you something. I've got a little boy who's 6 years old, and we're driving in the car today, and we hear my voice on the radio, and he goes, "Dad, are you famous?" And I said, "Well, it depends who you ask. You're asking Derek, maybe."
Yeah.
But for the most part, no, I'm just a dad driving a kid to the car wash. It's no big thing. So it's a fun thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So if we could talk more about the show, so the title of the show, Video and Arcade Top 10. I never really thought about it that much, but so video refers to, is this just a generic term? We know that you're playing arcade games, video games, but and then the top 10 refers to, if I'm not mistaken, that there would be whatever the top 10 selling games were at the time would be listed or something. Is that, what it makes sense of the title for me?
I didn't come up with the title. I can tell you a very smart guy did. A guy named Robert Essery, who was part of Casey Kasem's American Top 40. He was part of a bunch of other shows. Just really creative, go-getter, get it done by any means necessary kind of guy. He has passed away. So I can't answer for him as to what the name of the show is. I think it was just something that crossed his mind. He needed a show that captured, if you backtrack back to 1991 when the show was, on air, and then probably he came up with the name a year before that, I assume. You had to go to an arcade to play video games. And I'm talking like, arcades are cool and kitschy now. If you go to Tilt in Toronto or something, that's a lot of fun. But before, they were sketchy kind of places, like a pool hall with some video games or whatever. I mean, you know what an arcade is. I think he was drawing on that from his experience. And I'm just going by knowing his age and where he was from. And then the videos, obviously video games were just, I want to say they were just getting started. They were pretty hot at the time, but it exploded during the run of the show. During those 15 years, it exploded with even a brighter future ahead, but it took off. So I don't know the name of the game. We didn't do like a countdown top 10 video game list. We would basically talk about whatever was hot or whatever Nintendo was promoting at the time, because it was a heavily partnered show with Nintendo at the time.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask about that too. So that the various movies that you would showcase, or the music and the video games that were played, obviously there was some sort of partnerships or deals.
I don't know about that. And so in the show, they would talk about music and movies and stuff. I don't know how that was written. There were several writers that they went through on the show. Having worked, I assume that there was a relationship. We had a relationship. We were co-produced by YTV. I'm pretty sure there was a YTV person that would connect you with the record labels, the movie studios that are promoting whatever they're promoting,
Right. And
it's a machine, right? So you can just call somebody, PR over at Warner, and say, "Hey, we're doing this show. It's a youth-oriented show. What you got for me?" And they will send you whatever they're plugging.
That makes sense. I guess for the viewer's point of view, you want to be relevant. Say like, here's what's hot right now. Here's what you want to be checking out, and it sort of all relates.
Yeah, I don't know where they got I don't know what the top 10 was based on, or if there was certainly no like. Is there's obviously a top game chart now somehow.
I don't know what you would go on IGN and see what the top 10 selling.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there was nothing like that then. There was just, hey, they've got this new game coming out, or Mario Kart or whatever. Like, these franchises would like pick up, like the Mario Kart franchise just exploded. God, I just remember when that was like the biggest thing. So, and Donkey Kong, and it was fun at the time.
Yeah, the time frame of the show was so interesting. 91 to 2006 or whatever we said. I mean, that's 2006 with the PlayStation 3 would have come out. So that's sort of when things really got going with the new modern graphics and esports and all that got much bigger at that point. And obviously, like you mentioned, 91 was just the tail end or the beginning of all these, arcade stuff, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and all. Yeah.
So the idea of having an in-home game system had gone from a very early version of like ColecoVision or Atari 2600 The Nintendo they were sort of the first, like, I want to say like common, like you'd find one in many homes. Someone in your class had one, and then more kids had them. You know what I mean? It was it was the explosion. It was the beginning. It was the start of in-home gaming. What is now esports. You could walk that little path right back to an in-home Nintendo system.
Yeah. Did you anticipate at all what games would turn into?
Absolutely
nobody,
not.
yeah, nobody could have really predicted, but you
No, it
guys were
seemed
the
like a
first
pastime.
esports
It seemed
really.
like a fun thing to do. I had no idea esports would be a thing. And I think you still have a generation trying to explain what esports is. And
Yes.
for them, it's just kids playing video games. And obviously that will fade away and it just becomes part of what people do. But we're kind of in the middle of that transition from really appreciating what esports is and the fun and the getaway factor of it.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto's now looking at building this 500 million, is it, dollar arena that's just going to be for esports. I saw a concept art of it, and I don't know if that price tag was correct, but I'm like, how like this is just grown to unimaginable levels at this
Dude,
point.
it's a real thing. There's no denying it. There's no escaping it. It's just there's a generational gap to explain to people that it's legit. Like anything else, you got to just realize there are people right now listening to you that are like, of course esports is a thing. How could it not be? When wasn't it a thing? There was a time when it wasn't, and it's not that long ago.
Yeah, 100%. So the kids that were playing the games on the show, now I'm confused about this because when they were showing footage of the game, was it actually the kid playing? Like they would show the kid's face and then they'd show that was actually the person playing, or
God, it was, I would say it was when possible and logistically available. Yes.
right?
If there was, for some reason, we had technical problems would arise or whatever. If I don't even know why, but at some point they'd be like, we need some B-roll footage of someone playing the game that's not one of these 4 kids, because whatever's going on with, I want to say like a logistical technical issue of we can't get this live footage to the production truck to make it look right. So I know that there was almost always sort of extra footage, B-roll footage, or whatever you want to call it, that would be on standby. The main thrust was to show the kids playing, but I do know that at times they would have to cut to pre-captured footage of the kids playing. But essentially, and I'll say, I don't know, 99% of the times, what you saw on the screen to the side or whatever were these kids trying to make their way through whatever level. And some clearly were better than others. The fun part, Derek, was when you got a game that was not released yet. They've maybe had 10 minutes to play on it, and no one has a clue what they're doing. And I just look at it, I was like, okay, we're all just stuck on the same first room. We haven't moved on. And it would stay there for like 10, 15 minutes. And so I think at those times they might go to B-roll. At least I would as a TV producer. I'd be like, we got to get something going here.
And sometimes you might have to help one of the contestants through something like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we had some producers. There were a couple guys that worked on the show that would kind of, God, you'd see them in some shots, but they would like creep under where the people were and kind of help them and point, use your B button or something. And then you'd see them kind of slink away. And we would have to like stand over here to make sure that they didn't catch whatever production assistant was assisting at the time.
And sometimes some of the violence in some of the games, you guys would have to stop or not play certain titles. Or
okay, you get to select your weapon. Don't select the knife. Don't select the gun. It was, we were aired on YTV and they had, obvious policy, no stabbing, shooting, that kind of stuff. And it became very difficult at one point. It seemed like every game out there was ultra violent.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the biz.
So at one point, that I believe you had to change to the ratings of the games could only be.
Did we change the rating of the show?
I think
or
it
what
said at one point that the games they would choose would only be E-rated. I think that might have been mid.
Yeah, I think maybe it was G, whatever they rated it. Yeah, we were basically playing little kid games, and these kids would come in. They were like 14 years old. Going,
where's the Mortal Kombat? Where's the
exactly? Why can't I pick the knife? What's going on? And I'm like, So, and the ages of the kids would range from like 8 years old or 7 years old to 14, 15 years old. And that's a huge jump in maturity for a kid.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we're talking about the 1990s, where when those games first came out, like the Mortal Kombat's and that, they had all this legal challenge that was going on, especially in the United States and Congress and that, like we talked about the generational gap, these
Yeah.
generations didn't understand what was happening. It was all happening so quickly, and these kids are just like, it was like drugs to these kids, right? These video games, they just had to get it, and we're all familiar with the Bone Storm episode of The Simpsons, where Bart had to get that copy,
Wait, side note, you're a Simpsons fan?
Simpsons head, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it exists. It probably does. I want an alarm clock that wakes me up to Simpsons phrases.
Okay.
I want it to gently play the Simpsons theme because I think it's a beautiful theme. But then what I really want is I want phrases like opinatum or hot dog, we've got a wiener, it's KBBL or something. Like I want those lines, those classic Simpsons lines as my snooze button or something like that. If you could find one for me, if it exists.
If I can't find one for you, maybe I'll make one for you just because I'm kind of
I'm not technically whatever, but
I could pull in a team to work on it. Not myself alone, but I could find the guys that could probably make it happen. So
I'm telling you, I think a Simpsons alarm clock would be fun. I every day I wake up and I'm like opinatum, and I don't know why. It's
it's classic stuff.
Okay, so my wife doesn't let me watch The Simpsons here. She thinks they're cartoons, and that I shouldn't watch cartoons because I'm an adult.
Well, you got to tell her that there's The Simpsons had two things going on. There's two levels to it. You had the viewers that were Bart. Okay, that was me when I was a kid. But you also had Homer for the adults. There's two underlying things going on. There's the kid humor. We didn't get the adult jokes when we were kids. Parents used to say don't watch the show, but we didn't get the adult humor. We just watched it for the Bart and Milhouse stuff.
Dude, I have some more. I have the CD single for "Do the Bartman."
Oh yes,
which that was a song. That was a thing, man.
That was a legit song that was released. I mean, that was
a for real
song.
Capitol Records or whatever. Like I remember getting, as a DJ, getting serviced with this CD, and I'm like, "Do the Bartman? Why not, man? Hey, man, Technotronic's big. Why can't this be huge?" Oh wow. Okay, sorry for the Simpsons tangent, but
I'm sure you guys probably played a couple of the Simpsons games.
I'm sure we did.
There, you said that 734. I think every episode is on YouTube. There's an account that has every episode in full.
Shut up! Are you serious?
Yeah, it's. I don't know if it's an official thing, but it's.
Hold on, I want to show you something. I'm going to grab you something. This is, and it's in a bag, but this is the very final episode of Video and Arcade Top 10, the script that I saved. I never saved a script in my life. But this was the last one. This was show 768. God, what games were we doing? No, I don't even see it. Something about a monkey. I can't remember what it is. Anyhow, this is the final script of the show. Says
I think I read that you pulled everybody up from the audience to come up on stage or something at the last episode. Was that a thing? We would have, maybe let's check it out on YouTube. That's what people will have to do. They can pull it up.
Wow, that's great. That's great. I get a lot of messages of people asking, can you get me a copy of my episode? And
right,
literally it's on tape somewhere. There is a master reel of like these 3/4 inch or beta or whatever. I don't know what format it's in, but they're tapes. They're in a box. Someone has them. They got digitized. Some of them got digitized when they replayed a few years ago on a Canadian game show channel. So they're somewhere. If there's a YouTube that has a lot of them, that's pretty cool.
I don't know how new it is or what, but I stumbled across it, and it's kind of funny that you can go back and watch. The show was like so fast paced. Everybody gives you kudos to how you could just like.
I am a very fast reader. I didn't know I was a fast reader, but understand that we had to hit a certain time, and they would tell you so you'd get to the end of the show, and you have to have done, the prize wall. You have to have done all this stuff, get the sponsors in, Sometimes you had 2 minutes to do that. Sometimes you had 40 seconds to just wrap it up. And so you either had to just rifle through the address so fast and just kind of like go through it very quickly, you really learn to pace either very fast or very slow, track it.
Right, right.
So it's a good skill to have.
And I mean, sometimes you guys would make mistakes. I mean, you're going so fast, but people would give you kudos because you could just kind of, even if you made a mistake, you just stumble through it, and kind of that's part of the DJing
We
thing as well, right? And MC and all
oh
that.
God, some people read better than others, and they'd
Yeah,
see
yeah.
a prompter that they weren't good with and would just bowl through it. And I'm like, sure, why not? It's like, if the director didn't yell cut, I'm not yelling cut. They would throw words at us sometimes that were just like, are you seriously putting this on a teleprompter for me to like cold read? Just funny. It was a very wordy writer would sometimes like stumble you up, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. But I got very good at just kind of glazing over stuff very quickly. A lot of content and a lot of game information, and I really wanted to focus on giving the tips out because for me, I would imagine a viewer's like, how do I do well at this game? That's the whole darn point.
How did it work with the in studio players, and there was a player at home that could win also if their contestant won? Did they just have to write in, or how did that?
Yeah. You'd send in a letter, and the mailbag was legit big, like a very big mailbag, like Santa size.
I was gonna say, yeah.
We got a lot of mail, and it would mind boggling when the show was at its like peak. We'll say, I don't know, 2001, maybe 2000, something like, yeah, maybe around there. The mailbags, like, so it's kind of still pre-email for the most part. People are sending in letters. I would walk in, there would be 3 huge, like 50-gallon bags filled with letters. And the office manager, Shirley, would say, Nick, reach in and grab a letter. And I would grab some, and those were the letters of the week or whatever, or the partner players, or they just randomly picked people at home. So you would get linked up. And if whoever you were linked up with won, you also want a copy of the game. I talk to people now who messaged me and said, hey, I was a home player and I won whatever game. Sometimes they were really cool games.
Now, there's been some comments I've read online where people say the prizes in general were pretty crappy. Now, we didn't. I don't know what they expected, because this was a Canadian show. Well, I can't imagine the budget was the biggest in the world. So
Fair.
I
don't want to be nationalist and say Canadian game shows don't have as awesome prizes, but I will tell you, we did give away buckets of chicken. We gave away. I would say an Indiglo watch is a pretty good gift, but we gave away like cordless phones. We gave away the game itself. You'd win a copy of the game, which was good. For a while, they were giving away books. And I'm like, I don't want to make a face, but like, I'm watching a video game show. I don't want a book, man. Like, know your audience. Medieval Times was actually, I think, a pretty good prize. But my favorite episode was kid went on the prize wall and he points at one of the props and says, I want that. And the prop was like a windsurf, like sailboard. It was like a Bic sailboard or something like you'd have at your cottage. And in my mind, it wasn't one of the prizes, but I said, pick anything you want on the wall, and it's on the wall. True. And I look at the director, Jonathan, and he's like, just give it to him. Just give it to him. Just give it to him. And so this kid walked out of here with a really nice, probably $600 Bic sailboard.
That's a smart kid.
Oh, a great kid, man. I wish I'd taken that thing.
You could sell that by a bunch of video games, really. So the aesthetic of the show obviously was so 90s. It didn't really change much until its end, right? Like, it kind of stuck to its guns as far as the way it looked and felt and everything.
Well, are you talking like the actual, like the staging, the
staging,
wall?
the brick wall behind the very 90s,
graffiti. I could tell you that was probably all the same from 91 till now. There were these faux brick walls with graffiti, and there were some little Easter eggs in the graffiti that you'd have to watch and kind of check for.
Yeah.
The set was essentially the same. It kind of looked to me like inspired by whatever Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles layer might be like.
Yes, that was the 90s.
So to me, that was in my mind. Someone said, I want this, but in real life form. So
that makes sense.
Yes, that's probably what it was.
It even reminds me of the WWF Attitude Era. It was just that kind of branding that was very sketchy and kind of, I don't know if you remember that logo when they changed the WWF logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the 90s. That was,
there was a mistake on Wiki that credited me for doing the theme of the show, and it got corrected. It's another guy named Nicholas, Toronto, music TV composer that did the theme of the show, which to this day, when I hear it, I instantly like stand up and stare at a camera because.
Do you think you're ready to start reading? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, is it true that he worked on a Mega Man theme too? Some sort of.
I don't know.
I think that might be the case.
I've read people say it's basically the same song, but
maybe that's what I'm getting. Is
I don't think he worked on it. I think some people just drew comparisons, and I don't know which came first. To be honest, I might guess that Nicholas's theme might have come first, but I don't know. I was when that came up a while ago. I looked at the timeline. I'm like, if it was a ripoff, it was composer first, Mega Man second.
Right. So did you get to meet any other cool people in Canadian media and stuff? Like it was a YTV show, but was it actually filmed at YTV's studios?
The first few seasons were Liberty Street, downtown by the old water tower, whatever. I don't know what it is now. It's probably a condo or maybe a condo. Could be a condo.
Yeah.
And the Liberty Street studios where we taped. And then, man, we hopscotched every studio that was available. Shoreline, the Shirley Studios, Electric Images, CH, CTV. CH was a great studio. And then Pyman, which might be something else, but that's in Mississauga. That was probably the last, that was our last stop of studios to work at. But I will tell you, the crew, the people behind the scenes, the directors, absolute gold, just absolute wonderful people. Everybody on that show. Like, I don't think about the games. I don't think about the contestants as much as I think about the crew and the people and the legitimate friendships I made on that show, which a few years later, still very strong and bonded. So that was a special time. But as far as your questions about meeting people, Wayne from Glass Tiger, he was on the show. He was like a guest host. I think he was the bassist with Glass Tiger.
Okay.
I've since met Alan Frew, the lead singer, so I feel like full circle.
Yep.
The guys from Barenaked Ladies, I know Stephen Page from Barenaked Ladies brought his kids to be on an episode of the show. But we were friendly in other ways, more musically through radio and stuff like that, through the CFNY connection. And
isn't there a story there where you broke some early records of theirs or something?
Yeah,
like that?
As well. When they were just signing to the label at the time, I was moving to Buffalo, stateside, and the station I moved to was we'll call a monitored station. Like it was a kind of a hit maker station. Like if it started there, if you broke a hit at this little Buffalo Top 40 station, chances are it would grow. They would use that as an example or springboard or a launching pad for a career. I will tell you that Tom Cochrane's Life is a Highway, you can walk that right back to Nick playing that record on Kiss in Buffalo. You can do that with Barenaked Ladies. You can do that with Alanis Morisette, because these are records that Alanis Morisette was part of kind of my group of friends in Toronto. I wasn't friends with her, but my friends were friends with her. So when she started recording music and signed to a US label, I'm like, that's that girl that used to play the Game of Life with Jonathan and whatever. I'm like, and some of the other guys, I'm like, I know this girl and the song was really good. So I would play it because I knew her. That launched that song. And so there were a bunch of sort of, I would pay attention to Canadian artists because I knew them or had friends, acquaintances and stuff like that. So, there were some nice radio hits that got launched. I didn't know Tom Cochrane other than I lived in Oakville and he lived in Oakville, and I loved the song and I couldn't understand why it wasn't a hit in the US because it's such a good song. And well, since then it sort of became it was on The Office. Your songs made it when you are on an episode of The Office.
100%. Well, that's interesting because, obviously we know this as Canadians that our market is smaller, our population is smaller. Yeah. And so we have a lot more, the artists have more work to do to get noticed in the States, of course. And that's friends that do promo for record labels, and we'll tie this back into Video and Arcade Top 10. There is a national top 40 promotions director in Canada who used to be an intern
and then a production assistant on Video and Arcade Top 10.
Oh,
And
wow.
now he's a huge deal at Universal Music and hangs out with Lord and Katy Perry and whoever, whatever other bands are hustling right now,
Mhm.
artists. That dude was a production assistant on Video and Arcade Top 10. And so, and there was actually a duo. There was Brian and James, and they kind of worked in concert with each other, and they both have gone on to have really, really sweet careers kind of in broadcasting, or, Brian does a lot of television stuff, mostly in China, and South Korea, but he's an interesting character who got his start, and I would say kind of developed that bug on Video and Arcade Top 10. So, it's a small industry, and I'll tell you that promoting a record or promoting a song or an artist in Canada, it's a 4-city stop.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
A 40-city stop. Like, it's a lot of work. So, for whatever it's worth, big landscape, little landscape. I respect the difference in both countries, but it's interesting to be part of that contrast, because I was in Canadian radio. I worked at CFNY. I also worked for Energy FM for a couple of years, right around 2001, and got a grasp of the industry. I prefer where I am now, industry wise, just for whatever reason. I'm very comfortable here.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Like, would you ever take another TV gig if it was something was proposed?
Absolutely.
To you,
I did stuff
yeah.
on the NBC affiliate here. I jump at stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If they ever took you for a revival of Video and Arcade of some kind, if that
absolutely,
ever...
I'd jump on that in a second. There've been many conversations. There've been, I'll say, false starts, or
yeah,
we've gotten very close to doing something, and that's where it is right now. And then, quite honestly, pandemic kind of stalled the latest effort. But there were some really cool people involved with it, so I'm happy with it.
That's great.
If it happens again, I don't know.
No, that'd be great. I mean, I don't know what for, now you'd be competing with all these other esports type.
Oh my God, yeah. It wouldn't. Would it stand on its own? I hope so. Would it stand just for nostalgia? Why not? Weirder things have happened. And,
I would. Yeah, you would have to play the old games again. I think that's what it would have to be. It'd be some sort of retro themed thing.
It's funny, Derek. We sort of talked about how to marry those two things of nostalgia, old school, versus reality now. Mm-hmm. And we came up with a pretty sweet concept. And I can't explain what it was, because I've been told not to. Don't tell anybody.
No problem.
So I'll respect that and just say, I think you would really dig it. I don't know how old. What did you say your age? Do we know? Is that?
Yeah, no, I'm 32. I'll be 33 this year.
God,
so
dude,
yeah.
You're right in the zone. Yeah,
I'm in the zone.
Be funny at Costco. All right.
Yep. Yeah, I'll probably run into you there at some point when you're doing your Canadian run, something. But Nicholas, man, I think we learned a lot today. It was so good to get you in the Deekast studio here. And where can our other millennials find you now on Twitter and Instagram and all that?
I am basically, I use the handle Nick in Buffalo on, let's see, Insta and Twitter. I'll Snapchat. If I was good looking, man, if I was like Derek Hoff, I'd be snapping like a villain. I don't TikTok yet. By the time I get on, it'll be done.
True.
And I don't know.
Maybe Clubhouse is the next thing you could hop on, something like that.
Was that a thing? Clubhouse?
Clubhouse is this thing where it's sort of video.
Now that you know about it, it's probably already done.
It's an invite only thing, so it's a very exclusive club, I've heard.
All right, I will. Maybe OnlyFans. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll get somewhere. Nick in Buffalo is easy to find, or if your parents want to find me on Facebook, I'm Nicholas Picholas, and it's, I don't know if this is the spelling on the screen. Nobody knows how to spell the damn name. I've had a boss for, I don't know, 25 years, still gets it wrong.
But that was the point, because your real last name was too long to use, right? That was the whole point. So
ridiculous long Dutch name.
Can we say it on air? Is it they can find it on Google if they really want to know, but. Oh, I lost you. We just froze on me.
Genetic roulette. I got it.
Oh, go back for a sec. Say what you said. I'll cut it in here. But I was born with a 25-letter last name, and so I had to come up with something else. But I'm pretty easy to find.
in definitely in Western New York, I'm around doing stuff. So whether it's DJing at an event or a casino or whatever, like I still do a lot of music stuff. And
But it is a Dutch last name, you said? It's
very Dutch. Yeah, very Dutch.
Okay, so we're both from Dutch origins. I guess that makes sense with this whole geographic area. There's a lot of Dutch people,
Oh my
New
God,
York,
yeah, the Niagara
Ontario.
Horseshoe?
Yeah.
Woo.
Dutch-
You have the Dutch store though, where you are, Ramakers?
Ramakers, yep.
Oh, yeah. I lived in the Netherlands as a little guy. I lived in just outside sort of the Hague, Amsterdam area. And so it's I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, soon.
Do yourself a favor, go. I was born in the US. I lived in Canada. I live here now. It's the only place I feel at home, legit feel at home in the Netherlands. So I don't know, go there at some point.
Yeah, oh, it's on my list. I got some family there, so maybe I can stay for free, something like that.
Sweet.
But man, thanks again. And we'll catch you at the revival show episode of Video and Arcade Top 10.
Yeah, get me my Simpsons alarm clock, dude.
I'll work on it. I'll send you an email. We'll fix it up for you.
Derek, it was nice to meet you. And great chat. You do a really good job. Thank you.
Thanks. You too, man. Take care.